Good afternoon. My name is Kendall Worley, and this is my interpersonal communication project. First of all, I'm going to start off with a little definition of communication. Communication is the continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making. Communication is something that takes place in several different ways. Some of those ways consist of verbally through words, and also as well as through our actions, and that would be physical, and then emotional through our emotions, such as expressions. Next, I'm going to go over 5 features of communication. They are meaning, choice, culture, nexting, and identities. The meaning of communication is made collaboratively, and choice is with or without consideration. Sometimes you have the ability to make the choice in the communication, and sometimes you have to act upon what is placed before you. When the choices are made automatically, then that has to do with when you cannot have any say-so in what happens around you. Something that would go into automatically would be culture. A lot of times you cannot control your culture. Culture is intertwined with communication and affects communication and is also affected by communication. Identities are collaboratively constructed identities, meaning that they're made up of all of the different things around you, such as your culture, and the choices that you make. Conversation is one of the features of communication. It is the most influential event that takes place in communication, and is also the most important because that is the entire realm of communication, is having a conversation. Nexting is the most important skill that you can have in communication, and that is when you're constantly thinking of what you can do or say next in the conversation to help aid the conversation and move it along smoothly. I kind of made a working definition of interpersonal communication, what I found to be helpful. The fact that interpersonal communication does not happen all the time, and we contact people in 2 different ways, impersonally and personally. Personally would be meaning having a relationship with someone such as your mother or your father or sibling, and impersonally would be just having a conversation with someone like job related, such as your bank teller or someone in a store. Conversations and interpersonal communication can take place in many ways when you are contacting someone as a person, such as in relationships, like I've just spoke about, with mothers and fathers and siblings and even friends. Business situations, such as when you're interacting with that bank teller and personally, or a co-worker, which is a little bit more personal. Online communication is very popular these days with social media. That is a very popular form of communication. And then public speeches or presentations. They're a little bit more formal and informative. The goal of this presentation is to present an overarching goal, also known as an OAG, and it's mostly your master goal, and encompasses several smaller goals. So as you complete the master goal, you complete smaller goals as well. My master goal is more job related, and I feel as if once I accomplish it with my job, then it will help my personal life as well, but it's most important to my job. My goal would be to get people to open up to me and express themselves in a positive manner, to have a productive and flowing conversation without me feeling the need to ask a ton of questions, to pry out information, and depend on reading the person's body language and emotions. And by doing this, I'm able to improve my listening skills as well. If I'm able to get the person to talk more, then I'm improving my listening skills, and I don't have to talk as much, because what my clients as a social worker, what they have to tell me is important to me and the situation and for the safety of their children. How is my goal and accomplishing my goal going to be beneficial to me? These are just some of the ways that I came up with how I believe that it will be beneficial to me. By achieving my goal, it allows me to do my job very thoroughly in investigations and family assessments. When I'm trying to figure out what's going on, I need to be very thorough, and I need to know all the small details. And I really need someone to have a good, productive conversation with me. By doing this, I'm able to understand them better, as well as everyone else, inside and outside my job. So I won't have to question what they're trying to tell me and stuff like that. It gives me not only a better understanding of my client, but of the situation, what's happened in the past, abuse or neglect, what's happened now, find their motives and their determination to what may happen in the future as well. By having a better conversation, this is the most important part to me, having a better conversation with my clients and truly listening to them and understanding what they're saying, proves to them that I'm trying to understand them and their situations and where they're coming from, and truly understanding what they're telling me. And by doing this, I can relay this information and my interviewing skills to my coworkers as well. A little bit of my background that kind of gives some insight as to why I want this to be my goal, and some of the struggles that I have with conversation pieces and listening and stuff would be my background as being the oldest sibling and a child of divorced parents. Me being the oldest, when my parents divorced, I had to speak up for not only myself but my sister as well. So it gave me the, not so much privilege and not so much burden, but a little bit of both, to make decisions for myself and for my younger sibling, through what we wanted with visitation and where we wanted to go where. And it also made me afraid that I was going to say something that may hurt the other parent's feelings, or make a decision for myself and my sister that my sister necessarily did not like. I didn't want a negative outcome or create arguments and stuff, so I kind of would always say what I thought would be the lesser of the two evils. On a more positive influence, my position in my sorority at Lynchburg College, Alpha Chi Omega, I served as the philanthropy chair, and through that I had to give presentations to larger groups, which helped me be more assertive and with speaking at times with larger groups. And my experience with the Domestic Violence Prevention Center in Lynchburg, I was able to learn how to listen a little bit better to people, of women and children mostly, of all walks of life, and kind of try to understand where they were coming from and let them know that, me as someone on the outside looking in, it was there for them and wanted what was best for them, and was really trying to understand, what they were telling me and their feelings, and not so much what they were telling me through their words, but I could kind of read facial expressions and stuff, so that did help me. And then my job as a social worker, it's led to many, many, many conversations on various topics, but mostly they go back to children and then abuse or neglect of children. These are all very important and sometimes tough conversations and topics to be spoke about, but they're most certainly necessary. Honesty in this job is crucial. If someone lies about something, it could result in a child returning home where they're only gonna be returned to a parent that abuses them or neglects them in several different ways. Honesty from point A allows for the case to move smoothly and quickly, and to come up with a definite and concrete game plan for the situation. My behavioral blend, I'm going to touch on this for a second. I believe that I can speak about a lot of things, but really harsh topics sometimes scare me, especially when I'm having it with a person one-on-one, because I don't necessarily know how they're going to react. Like I said, you know, I don't know how they're going to react, so sometimes I find myself beating around the bush a little bit. When I'm working with my clients, I sometimes struggle to be assertive in what they need to do. They're given guidelines of what they need to accomplish by certain deadlines, and I'm not exactly the most assertive person when it comes to them not meeting those. I am afraid of being rude or hateful to my clients, which I think is something that is respectful of them, but then again, maybe is probably why I'm not quite as assertive as I should be. I vary from being shy and quiet to very outgoing and outspoken, depending on how well I know the person. I do get outspoken and not so much aggressive, but maybe aggressive for lack of a better word, on topics that I feel strongly about. I think that comes from my position in Alpha Chi Omega, speaking about domestic violence prevention. And sometimes I allow what people say to me get to me, and most of the time you would think that the people that are close to you that say negative things would get to you, but I'm the opposite. Sometimes the snide remarks from my clients jump into conclusions about who I am and what I've done in the past and who I am as a person. Often hurts more than comments from people that I'm closer with. Some of the barriers to my goal would be listening skills. There's always room for improvement. I think through this course I've really improved my listening skills, but definitely room for improvement. I do see my thoughts wandering at times if the topic does not necessarily interest me 100%, or unfortunately if I know that my clients are being dishonest with me, I just tend to, kind of cancel out the conversation, because a lot of times my conversations that I have with my clients are backed up by conversations that I have with service providers. So sometimes before I even ask a question, I already know the answer, and I'm just hoping that my client will be honest with me and tell me. I've come to the conclusion that with that, the talker listener card would be very beneficial here, and it's something that I'm going to keep in mind. Another barrier would be honesty. In my line of work, clients like to lie and tell you what you want to hear or what you need to hear in hopes that you will do for them what they want you to do. Self-disclosure is sometimes very hard to get from a client. They don't trust us. They see a social worker or family services specialist as someone who has taken their kid and doesn't want to give them back, so they're not necessarily going to look to us as being someone they want to disclose information to. Productive conversations is a barrier in some of my work, just simply because I don't have the self-disclosure or honesty from my clients and the lack of listening skills on my end. Again, I'm going to try to use the talker listener card to really allow the conversation to flow better. My plan of action. While much of the reading that has taken place throughout the class has been quite beneficial to pursue a plan of action to achieve my goal, I will focus on my listening skills and using the TLC. I will also remind myself that sometimes difficult conversations are necessary, and they're crucial to the safety of my children in foster care and child protective services. So whether I want to have them or not, one foot in front of the other to get the job done. And I will constantly remind myself that the actions of my clients and what they have to say will not get to me and affect me, and will most certainly not determine my reaction. That is something that I actually remind myself every day. Even strangers in the grocery store and stuff, I remind myself that their actions should not be my reaction. If their action is negative, my reaction should not be negative. Inhaling and exhaling is a prime example of what I will try to use here. Inhale what is going on, and just know that whatever I exhale should be, very Christian-like and what God would want me to do. Honesty in the conversation will weigh on my client and how honest they want to be. I will work on building a positive rapport and being upfront and honest with them as well, because I know that what I say and I do in the conversation is just as important as what they say and do. Conclusion: to help improve my conversations, particularly with my clients through my job as a social worker at social services, I will use techniques and information I learned from the talker listener card, self-disclosure, honesty, and various other things I learned throughout this course. Here is my bibliography, and that is my conclusion. Thank you.